Good evening and welcome once again to this week's episode of It's My Turn Now. Thank you for joining us. I want to encourage you to invite your friends, invite your family, tell someone it's my turn, it's on now. We have been dealing with the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the subject of men raised without a father in the home. And we talked about the impact that that has on the male being brought up in a home without a father. But we really have to recognize not only does it impact uh, men, but it impacts young ladies as well, not having a father in the home or a male figure in the home. So that's what we're going to discuss on today. So I want you to just sit back. If you have a question, there's a link on my Facebook page that you can click on if you want to come on and want to be to share your thoughts with us. You can feel free to come on, click on the link, and we will be glad to. We'll see you. You can come on live, or you can answer. Just type in "It's my turn now" and give your comment or your questions. And so I'm so excited for our guest we have on today. We have very, very, very special guest on today. I'm so glad to have her. She's no stranger. This is not her first time. She's been on here before, and so I just want to welcome this time.
Hello, it's my time.
All
I'm
right, your time or your turn.
it's my turn now.
There you go. You got it. All right. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, I'm Kelly Folsom Jones. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I work currently in a community mental health center, and I treat patients that have severe mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, bipolar 1 and 2, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and ADHD, substance abuse, and I treat adults and adolescents 13 to 17.
Well, that's a lot to cover. I'm sure there's times when it's become very challenging with especially dealing with the mental health and dealing with challenges that individuals have. But our subject of tonight, and we had you on before, so you're no stranger to "It's My Turn Now." We had you did such an outstanding job the last time. We invite you on again. But this is a subject that I think is very important because a lot of times we don't realize the effects, how it affects young ladies coming up, not having a male figure in the house. And so I want you to help us as we discuss this. I want those of you who, if you're watching this right here and you were brought up in a home without a father, we would love to hear your comment, how you think it affected you, some of the challenges that you had. We talked about a number of the challenges young men have who come up, who are raised in a home without a father. But we want to talk about some of the challenges because I have dealt with clients. I'm sure you've dealt with clients who have had challenges, especially young ladies who have had challenges not having a male role model in the house. I guess I'll start off with there's some statistics that I had. I'm going to start off with that. It says daughters of single parents without a father involved are 53% more likely to marry as teenagers, 711% more likely to have children as teenagers, 164% more likely to have a premarital birth, and 92% more likely to get divorced themselves. So I just thought those are some pretty much staggering statistics. Now, I'm not saying that every young lady that's brought up in a home where there's not a male figure would enter that category, but these are statistics, and I think those are something to just think about. Now, Shirley Walton says, "Praise the Lord, everyone. Thank you, Sister Shirley. Sister Shirley, share. Thank you for sharing. If you're watching this, please share it. Share with your family. Share with your friends. Like I said, so listening to those statistics, what would you like to share with the audience about that? What are your thoughts on that?"
That's pretty staggering. I didn't even realize that myself, as far as more likely to get divorced, and just the ratio of women that are girls that grow up without fathers that have children at a younger age and become
Hmm.
do some of that, but those are staggering statistics and very it's something growing up in a home with a father, to be honest, I didn't necessarily think about a lot. Didn't even realize that I was any different than anybody else until I started, talking to other women, and just they always talked about what a wonderful father I have, and how impactful that was. And even people that meet me sometimes say, "I can tell you were raised in a home with a good, strong father."
Right. Yeah, and it does have an effect. I know a number of my daughter, she has friends that are who don't have father. Now I will say this right here, because you are raised with a father does not guarantee that you're going to be that successful as well. And I'm on top of that in one future program, because I've known a number of individuals who have said, you know what, I was raised with a father, but the father was absent. He was in the home, but I never saw him. Either he was working, or he had other issues and challenges that he had to deal with. So we're not saying that because you have a male figure in the house that's going to guarantee that you're going to be successful in life, because there are challenges either way. But statistics, alone, if we just went by the statistics themselves, bear the fact that there are some challenges, and I'm sure you have experienced. I've experienced with some of my clients who who share with me how it has impacted them, and sometimes people don't even realize as they're growing up until later years what an impact it has on them. So share some of your experiences.
Yeah, so I work in Anderson, and we have a lot of patients that Anderson used to be a booming town where there were families, there were a lot of industries there, and all of that is gone. So there's a lot of broken families, a lot of men that have left the homes because the jobs were not there, and just the lack of confidence. I think one of the most difficult parts of my job is just convincing patients that they have worth and value. They don't see it, but when I get into the nitty gritty and start asking them about their childhood, many of them grew up in single parent homes, no father, not sure where their father is.
Hmm.
Many of the choices that they make, low self-esteem, body relationship issues, getting into domestic violence, just not knowing how to choose a partner, lack of education, lack of confidence to go and do things. Just super impactful. More depression, more isolation, not having value, not feeling worthy of love and value, because some of them said, if my father didn't love me, then why would anyone else love me?
So true. So true. It's funny that you should talk about value, because I just recently finished. This is my 10th book right here. I don't know if you can see it. The Worth of a Woman. Do you know your value? That's book number 10,
Mhm.
and it should be coming out very soon. Matter of fact, I'm just going to make a plug on this right here. The I designed my own covers. This is my daughter right there, and that's my wife over there. So I designed that with them on there. But one of the things that's just so true, a lot of times they question their value and their worth, and their self esteem is all is affected, and so many times they're trying to find a male. Plus, I believe that it's important that a woman uh, or a male, they need a covering. They need a strong uh, someone that they feel that they're strong and are able to cover them, to a protector. And I'm not saying this because somebody said, "Well, I'm a woman," because I'm a woman don't need. You need a covering. Even a young male needs a covering, someone who is there to support them, someone who can show strength. Sometimes someone in a time of challenges in their life, that they say, "This person right here is there, and they have my back." And I'm not saying that uh, a mother can't be there, but I don't care what anyone says. A mother can't be a father. A mother can attempt to assume the role that a father has out of necessity, but she can never be that father, because there's things that a father can teach a young lady that a mother can't. And the same thing without a young man that comes up without a father in the home. There's things that a father can teach a young man that a mother can't do. So we have to realize the very importance of having father in the house. And I'm going to deal with some statistics. I like to deal with statistics. I'm going to deal with statistics of black home. Says the percentage of black fatherless homes, according to Harry and Smith, 25 to 33% of African American men are spending time in jail or in prison, according to Thomas Camp Newton. 28% of African children do not live with any father represented. I'm going to say one thing too, and thank you, Sister Robin, Sister Poole. She said greetings and praise the Lord. Society itself, especially when it deals with the Black family, society itself, it has to bear some of the responsibility. Not all the responsibility. They have to bear some of the responsibility. But when you make it more convenient for a mother to get resources when there's not a male in the home, then that becomes a problem. And so we have to be aware of that. And just back and we look at the history, men have been taken out of home. Back in our early history, men were taken out of home, and so we have to understand that the psychological effect of the psychology of that. It affects them, and so and I found out that there are a lot of women who were brought up without a father tend to have less respect for men. They less respect for men because they don't understand why did dad leave. Why was he not a father? In some cases, it's valid, but some cases the man had to leave because he wasn't able to or didn't have the resources, didn't have the education to further himself, and maybe he didn't have a good role model. So he didn't know. I've talked to a lot of good men that have left the house because they said, I don't have a job. I don't have the education. I couldn't get a job. So for the sake of my children, I left the house. But then again, that's no excuse for absentee parentism because you don't have to live in the house to play a part. So I'll let you go from there. And if someone is watching, like I said, if there's someone who's watching here, you came up with our father, share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, so I grew up in a house where I had older sisters that
Mm-hmm.
my father had with his first wife, and
Mm-hmm.
then my sister and he had with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Even though my sisters were not in the house, I will say that my father was definitely present. He picked them up every other weekend. He got them during the holidays. He got them in the summertime. And I will say I love my father and my sisters. If you're watching, but I will say that I do feel like, as far as confidence goes, compared to my sister and I that were raised in the home with our father versus my two older sisters that their parents were divorced. I do feel like there is a difference. My sister and I, that were my whole sister, we both have master's degrees, and I just feel like there is more confidence there. There is more. Just the ability to do things unafraid, more definitely my father was stricter on us. I felt like he was a little bit more lenient. They didn't have as much of an oversight because my father, he definitely didn't run their mother's house. They had to have rules when they came to his house. But I do see a difference in just the way that, even though they are my sisters, they are my half sisters, compared my sister and I. So there is a difference there. It just makes a difference when you are, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Just watching you. And then the protection that's there. Things happen when, things can happen to anybody, but when there is no father in the home and that lack of protection, it makes a difference. Um, Fathers are there. That's one of their main things. Parents, period, is to protect the home, but definitely the fathers. And there isn't, all the riffraff that goes on if there is a man at the house. Even me being a single woman, sometimes when someone comes to my door, I'm like, I'll have to ask my husband. Well, the Bible says God is your husband, so they don't know that that's who I'm saying. But there's a protection that having a man around brings. Yeah, that you don't get when he isn't there.
That's so true. And a lot of times a woman will look to that father and his relationship as an example of the type of male figure that they want to have, the type of husband that they want, but they don't. In the absence of that, they have to find some type of someone else to say this is the role model that I want to have. This is an example, the blueprint that I want to have. And so I think it becomes very difficult for that person without a parent. Jamie Gonzalez says that's what happens then, but what is wrong with men today, especially them that marry a few times? That's a good question. Would you want to address that?
What is wrong with men today, especially those that get married multiple times?
Hmm.
That is certainly an issue. I think, again, probably if you were to talk to those men, they didn't have the role model that they see the marriage, the strong marriages that
Hmm.
my parents have been married over 50 years that lasted many, many years. A lot of times men are um, ready to, well, I just think this country, period, men and women are ready to divorce for any reason. We're not sticking in these marriages for long times. Like you know, if she doesn't dress the way, just very petty things. And so just teaching men how to stick it out and how to stay for the long haul, because many of them will find that once they are single and out there again, there isn't really, much out there. And the statistic as far as divorce number one and how long, a marriage number two is going to last, how long marriage number three is going to last. The marriages get shorter and shorter and shorter. And so just giving those men the tools to know what it's like to be a husband, to be the head of the house. I think it's super important to get all that information when you're dating from people together. Like, what was your family of origin? What did the dinner table look like? What did it look like when did you guys go on vacation? Did you have conversations? These are all questions that we need to ask when we're dating. And I think that even if a man doesn't have that, that you can show him that. You
Yeah,
can give
exactly.
him that in your relationship and how you carry yourself as a woman,
Mhm.
having stand and a man will rise up to the occasion if you set the standard and set the bar correct. You don't have to lower your standards, but just making sure that your standards are correct and that you know your worth and you know your value, and
Mhm.
you have your things set. This is what I will won't do, this is what I will and won't accept. If you have those you know in place, and you know that before you go into the relationship, and he can either rise to the occasion or not, and then you can make a decision whether or not you want to be in that relationship. But women also have to have their standards as well.
Right. There has to be boundaries that are set, but then again, in the absence of a model or pattern, they really don't know. It's on the job training. It's kind of hit and miss. And I've dealt with a lot of clients who have really tried to have a healthy relationship. But then again, you have to say there are a lot of guys that are irresponsible. One of the things I wrote in one of my other books, The One to Understanding and Building a Healthy Relationship, there's a lot of mama's boys out there. And these mama's boys do not want to accept responsibility. And then, they don't want to accept responsibility. And mama's, pampering them, even as grown men. And so, that's a problem. And sometimes, if in the lack of a male being in the house, then the mother will say, well, Johnny, you're the man of the house. Well, Johnny's still not the man of the house. Johnny can have a certain amount of responsibility. And that may be a little broad to tell him to be the man of the house because he may not understand the definition of what his responsibilities are. So then that puts undue pressure on him because he's trying to be fulfill some shoes that are just not designed for him to fill.
Absolutely. One of the patients that I had tonight, well, I think he was, I don't know, almost 40, but I was asking about his sleep habits. He said his sleep habits weren't so good because he shared the bed with his mother.
I'm
Because
sorry. I'm sorry. Excuse me. It must be something wrong with my here, you say he's 4 years old?
He was 39, yes. And was
Mm.
bed with his mother because he didn't have anywhere else to go. The house was totally full, and his mother happened to, I don't know what size bed she had, but it was enough for at least two people, and so they shared the bed. But anyways, just a lack of maturity and responsibility, 100%. But it goes back to, was this a mother that was raised without her father and then didn't, teach her son the proper techniques? I asked him, I said, how did you learn to regulate your emotions as a child? Like, were you taught that at
Mhm,
all? Did you
mhm,
learn that at all? Did anyone teach you that? And he's like, no, I've had issues with my anger since I was 4. And so that's a parenting issue. That's a parenting issue. I have a grandson's ages 2 and 4, and they don't come into the world knowing how to regulate their emotions. But that's something that I'm teaching them, and their parents are teaching them. But so many men are not getting that at all.
mhm.
And so, if you are a single mother and you do have a daughter and you're raising her alone, certainly look to some other role models, some positive role models that are in the community, your own family. I was divorced. My father was a wonderful role model for my daughters. But you have to look for those role models. I love Michelle Obama, and she said that strong men raise strong women, and that she had a lot of strong men in her life, and we know what a powerful woman she is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it makes a difference. They need that. They need that male role model to give them guidance, to show them, even to teach them how to deal with other men, because uh, a lot of times the moms are learning how to deal with men, but men know how men think. So
Mhm.
men are able to communicate. I tell my daughter certain things, talking to guys, watch what these guys, uh, what they say, what they do. And it's like what you're saying, you know, some men are disciplined, some are not disciplined. I would find that I can't see, I would sleep on the floor for, I'm thinking about sleeping in bed with mama. I mean, really, I mean, that's just, to me, that's something that was totally unacceptable. But somehow they normalized that within, that mom is okay with it, son's okay with it. But first of all, he needs to be on the floor. You know, this is what I'm saying. Mom cannot make it so comfortable for him that he's okay with it. If he sleeps on that hard floor a few times, he's going to try to. It's going to force him to say, "Hey, I can't take this." But if you make him comfort for him being in the bed, that's wrong on a whole lot of levels. But that's a whole different show right there. So I'm gonna let that one right there go.
Yeah.
James, he needed therapy, and someone needed to find him his own living quarters and a bed, or get him an air mattress. You're so right. That's just what I was just saying. I mean, I'm saying you're becoming mom is becoming an enabler,
Yes.
and like I said, the security. Uh, some women, and I'm saying this, and this is some of the extreme cases. Some women, when they don't have a male in their life, then the son becomes somewhat of a surrogate for them, and they put expectations sometime on that son that they really need to be, hopefully to find, if they're fortunate enough, because it's a charge of men out there, and it's even more of a charge of good men,
Hmm.
and there's even more of a charge of responsible men. And there are a lot of men that are not responsible, and that's why. And I've dealt with clients, too many clients. I haven't had anybody sleeping in the bed with the mom, but I have too many clients that, going by the mom's house, they listen to mom. Mom does this, mom does, and then they're not good husbands because they've not been taught. Go ahead.
Absolutely. They're not good husbands, and the mothers are not good mother-in-laws
Right.
because they're upset with the daughter-in-laws for taking the husband or whatever. And so it just creates conflict in for the grandchildren because I have a family member that her mother-in-law is has not been kind, and even it's and this person is a wonderful woman, but the mother-in-law has just really had some hurt, and a single woman, and her son provided for her, and now that he has a wife, he's, taking care of his wife and children, and it's upsetting to her to the point where she's not even taking care of her grandchildren because she's so upset with the daughter-in-law. So women have to set boundaries. They have to set boundaries and deal with their own hurt and pain. I mean, I say that the best parent is a healed parent. That's the gift that you can give to your child, is that you are healthy and you are whole and you are healed. And sometimes it doesn't happen before you have children, but
Mhm.
it can happen while you're raising your children. To get that healing yourself, and go into your inner child and see what they are lacking, and get healing so that you don't end up raising also damaged children. And we all have issues. We're all going to have issues. No one's perfect, but you want to do the best that you can and provide the best opportunities for your children to be able to flourish and be independent. You do not want a dependent man or a dependent woman as a child. That's not good.
And you brought up a good point, that sometimes the mother has such a strong hold on that young man that she's raised, because that's the man that she has raised, and he's been her support system. She doesn't give him the freedom to say, okay, you were there, I raised you, now you married, put your wife first. But I have seen some mothers actually find themselves competing against the wife. I've known some individuals that their marriage is broken up because of the mother. So it becomes a problem. Secondly, also, and this is another subject, there are a lot of women who become bitter toward men because there's not a male. Maybe they've been married, maybe they've been divorced, or uh, seeking to find the right man in the house, have been unable to find that, and they just have bitterness toward men. And they don't really know what a healthy relationship is because they never saw a healthy relationship. And so now they are bitter toward most men because they have attachment issues, abandonment issues, as we mentioned earlier, psychological issues, because why did dad leave me? Why did he not care about me? What's wrong with me? And so I want to address, I'm going to read a couple of these comments, and then I want you to address that. Shirley said, it's my turn now. Sometimes I think if a male or female come up without a father or mother, they make sure they do their best not to be like their parents were if it was a negative situation. That's so true. There are some situations, and you would think that, you know, and I came up without a father, but I made my purpose that I would be the best father that I could be, and I think I've done a pretty good job. Uh, but there are some men that are bitter. Is they perpetuate that same cycle,
Mhm.
and they're hurt and they're bitter, and they never say it's time to break. It's time to break the cycle. We have to do something about it, but they perpetuate that, and it becomes a serious problem. Mr. Robinson says, from experience, my uncle raised me along with 9 children, and being raised with my uncle gave me an idea what a real man is. He corrected me as his daughter, and although I was his niece, disciplined me as a daughter, spoke to me as a daughter, and sent me into the world with confidence from a father to a daughter. It made all the difference. I couldn't imagine not having a role model in my life. Jesus, I'd be a mess. He set the tone for honesty, truth, confidence, boundary goals, and self love. I'm going to say something to what she's saying too. Also, what happens too is because he set a pattern, you knew what a healthy relationship looked like. And so now you're able to identify an unhealthy relationship. And that's something that's so important, because you many times young ladies are not able to even recognize the fact that I'm in an unhealthy relationship. They see that as being the norm. Well, it's like someone will say, well, all men cheat. All men are going to cheat on their wife. Well, that's not the case. All men are not cheaters. All men aren't cheating on their wife. But that's what they perceive. That's what they've learned. Maybe because of the experience that they've had, different relationships, and every relationship they were in, uh, the boyfriend ended up cheating on them, And that's another situation too. I never forget. I had a client that said, "No guy, every guy I met, no good. They this, they that." And I said, "Well, where you meet them? Met them all at the club." I said, "You might have to try to go some other places to try to meet somebody other than the club." And so, but you don't know that. These are things that you have to learn. But you're going to say something.
Well, you said so much there, but I love the young lady that was talking about her uncle that was just a surrogate that came in and stepped in where her father did. And that's what I was saying. Sometimes, you can't you can't help. We don't get to pick our parents, but even looking for those role models and seeking them, and just be you have to be careful, but exercising wisdom and guidance, if you are a single mother dealing with that you certainly can find good role models, like I was saying before, in the community.
Mhm.
um, Also, we were talking about the mothers being unhealthily attached to their sons. The Bible says that in Genesis 2:24 that a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is so very important. And if you don't have and if you don't have that healthy boundary with your mother, and a mother son healthy boundary, it is so very difficult to come in and to leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife. um, Also, we were talking about identifying unhealthy patterns. And when you don't know what is normal, sometimes it's hard to know what's abnormal, because you just think the way that you live is the way everybody's living, until you see different, until you hear different, until you know different. And so, if you are an adult woman who grew up without a father, I think that just educating yourself, like, what does a healthy relationship look like? Seek role models, seek mentors that have healthy marriages, healthy relationships, in your church, at your job, maybe a friend's parent. There are so many people out there that can model, even as an adult woman, what a healthy relationship looks like. And do your research. There are so many good. You have some good books out there about relationships. There's good books out there about relationships and
Thank you.
health relationships, and how to seek those. But just educate yourself. Just because you grew up without a father doesn't mean all is lost, and there's nothing that good can come from that. But there's a lot of good that can come from that. And then sometimes I do feel like it's God's protection. Sometimes I have some friends that grew up without their father, but honestly, they had substance abuse problems. They were abusive. And even though it may hurt to have grown up without a father, sometimes it's certainly God's hand of protection on your life, keeping you away from that negative influence. So we thank God for, in all things, we give thanks.
That's so true. I want to throw this in there too, that a mother has to display wisdom. There are some women who want a male figure in the house so bad that they have a number of men come in. I don't want my son not to have a father, but are they really a good image? Just to have every male is not a good male. Just because he's there doesn't mean he's a good example. If he's there, he's doing drugs. He's showing negative habits. He's abusive. You would do better, like you said, not to have a male in the house than to have that type of person there who's going to be abusive. So I've talked to a lot of parents who, and then they have someone in the house that they really don't love. They're not emotionally connected with, but they do it for the sake of the children. And if you do that, it's unfair to the children, it's unfair to the man, and you're not going to have a healthy relationship because you really don't care for that person.
Mm.
So and then now you're damaging someone else. But there are a lot of young ladies that have attachment issues as a result of not, or like I said earlier, feeling abandoned, and so they have very unhealthy relationships. They have attachment, and sometimes they're too clingy because My dad left me. I'm afraid you're gonna leave me. And so then they have control issues because now they're trying to control relationship. And I tell people you cannot control anybody. Only one person can control, it, and that's yourself. And many times you have to have the Holy Spirit to help you to do that. Let me see. Rosalind once again said it made me to be conscious of how I carry myself, how to respond to my uncle, and simply respecting, knowing my uncle was someone vital to all 9 of us. It was respect learned that taught me how a father loves children. So true. Also, it teaches you. It teaches a young lady how to love a man. If there's a healthy relationship and the mother's there, and she has a healthy relationship, she's going to be a pattern for that young lady. This is how you treat a man. Now, if she's an unhealthy relationship and she's abusing some women, they the exact same thing. They follow the parent. If the mother was abusive to their dad, or mom was disrespectful to the dad, mom put the dad out of the house. Well, guess what? Not, well, I don't say 9 times out of 10. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll say 6 times out of 10, she's gonna put him out of the house. And these are things, patterns that repeat themselves, and it actually can be identified. Those type of behavior patterns, systematic problems that go on in the home. Sister Deborah Monora says, "Thank God for strong uncles. I had a strong one whom was an excellent role model and disciplinarian for his 11 nieces. Wow, 11 nieces and nephews, even before he had any children. And that's special. That's
Mhm.
special. And I think we need more men. We need men. We need churches need to establish mentoring programs. Where they can maybe have like a once a month or once every 6 months, someone can adopt a daughter. Of course, we live in society, all kind of things going on now. So you would have to monitor that properly, but to have role models so that they can have that, because there are a lot of young ladies, like I said, that are looking for a role model of a man they're looking for. And was I think it's the Proverbs or Psalm said, "Help, Lord, for the godly man cease." So there are a lot of men out there, but there are not a lot of godly men. There are men who can be examples. And so in some situations, no father, as you said, is better than a father who is abusive, manipulating, controlling, selfish, and uncaring. So, and I think it's pretty bad. Thank you. Ross said, "Praise God for great uncles." Then she said yes. I think she's saying yes to the comment. So, well, this time is going along pretty fast. Tell us what some of your thoughts regarding that, because I know you've dealt with that quite a bit. I've dealt with it quite a bit. I'm sure in your practice you dealt more because you deal with more extensive uh, types of clients. So, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I have and I love everybody, um, but I will say that I do have a lot of girls that grew up without fathers, and they don't know how to be a woman. They have they have skewed gender roles, and so they become more masculine and um, don't know how to carry themselves as a woman at all. And a lot of them, honestly, they hate men. They want a female provider. They want a female therapist. They don't want males anywhere in their lives, whether it's romantic or professional. They don't want anything to do with men. They develop a hate um,
Right.
for men and a disdain for men. And so that is just super important, knowing like there's male and female in the world, and knowing those roles and those gender roles, and how to carry yourself are important, and that starts from a very early age. It's so important for men to affirm their daughters, because if you get affirmation from at home, you won't need so much of it in the world, and you won't be seeking it and be clingy and have those unhealthy attachments. Or some women become very promiscuous and hook up with all kinds of people. They're seeking love. They don't realize that being intimate or hooking up with somebody is does not equal love and intimacy. That is not what love looks like. That's not what a healthy relationship looks like, but they have not seen that role model. They don't understand that. So that's just so very important. And when you have someone, especially a man, a father, telling you you're beautiful, you are worthy. I grew up, my mother is very light skinned with pretty straight hair, and I had a complex, to be honest. A lot of my mother's family are light skinned. And so, but my father would always tell me that I was beautiful, your daddy's little chocolate, whatever he told me. And that gave me such confidence to know that my father thought I was beautiful. And it didn't really matter what other people thought because I knew my father found, me beautiful and I was beautiful in his eyes. And so it's so very important. Honestly, the affirming words from my father, even today, stick more with me than what my mother said. And I had two loving parents, but there's something about a father that affirms a daughter that it just sits differently. It really does.
I agree with you 100%. Women, they need a validation and they're looking for it. In absence of the father, wherever man that gives them that validation, they draw toward him. He could be abusive, but give them that validation, and they will still cling to him because that's normal for them. That's all they know. Secondly, when you talk about, and I would like to say this right, any young lady that's raising a child without a man does not have to take on the role of a man. In other words, you can be feminine, you can
Mhm.
be yourself, but you don't have to be just as tough as a man. And I've seen women who are like that. I don't now. Then they pass on to daughter. Well, you don't need them, and they're bitter. Now they put that bitterness in there. Well, I don't need no man. I can make without a man. So now that daughter is saying, well, I don't need no man either. My mom made without a man. But you may have been able to make it, but doesn't mean that you have a healthy self-esteem. You have a healthy self-image because you are able to accomplish certain things in life. When you are missing a piece of that puzzle, it can have an effect on you. Not saying that you can't grow, but it affects you, and it all depends on the circumstances. It maybe you were not a father because maybe your father died.
Mhm.
Could be a number of different reasons. Could be that he left. Could be mama had to pull him out because he's a drunk or he's a gambler, drug addict. So all of that is based upon the reason why that person that the father's not at home, and the reason why it can have a tremendous effect. And one of the things that I never forget, my daughter put on Facebook. She said, I've never been to Waffle House before. I want to go to Waffle House." So
Mhm.
guess what I did? I said next. I said, "Honey, we're gonna go on Waffle House and take on a date. We're gonna go." And I didn't tell her where we are going. We're going out to breakfast, and guess where I took her? I took her to Waffle House
Right.
because and I know that a lot of gym guys would buy into that, and they're reel them in just because of that. And so a male knows that. So her
Mhm.
first experience, and there was something else that she had not done, and so I wanted her to have the experience and know that it's in a healthy environment because sometimes women who do not have a father become vulnerable, and men especially no good men. Some of these no good guys have they have a sense of discernment. They can
Mhm.
discern when a woman is needy. They can discern when a woman feels like she has to have a man like and they latch onto that. And rather than helping them, they will manipulate that fact. So and it can easily be seen. A lot of guys recognize. Let me see. Roslyn says again. She says. When a man isn't present, she loses her identity and role. She doesn't know her boundaries. She learns her identity through ungodly relationships that fail her time and time again. She doesn't know her boundaries enough to leave abuse of anyone who is toxic. She clings to unhealthy things, thinking she is enough. She isn't enough for the next. She doesn't feel worthy enough. She settles. She accepts things that she knows isn't right. That is so true, and that's sad. But and as well as I've known, too many times that's what's happened. They accept anything because their self-esteem. And I think what you said was so important. Having a father to validate you, saying you're special. The young lady wants to hear, and she wants to hear from a man. She doesn't want to hear from mom. She wants to hear from man. Well, how do other men view me? What should I expect in a man? And these are things that having a father. These are conversations that fathers should have. My daughter, from the time she was about 2 years old, every Monday was our day.
Oh.
Every Monday. Till she went to college, every Monday was our day. I would take her out. We'd go out to eat. When she was younger, it was good because we used to go to Ryan's, and as long as you was under the rail, you could eat free. So but then she got so tall, she was over the rail, but she was still underage. I said, wait a minute, she's not that old, so it may ease, but we were able. I was able to talk to her, and I was able to talk to her things, about men, and I still let her know even to this day. She may not come to me as much as she used to, but I'm there. And I think that's so important to know that there's someone there when you need someone to talk to. Sandra Jackson says, yes, discernment is real. Also, she says, it is essential to vet the individual, pray, fast, and seek God before moving toward a relationship. That is so true. Very good comments. Again, those who are watching, please share this right here, because I think this is a very important topic. I think there are a lot of women in the church, and I think it presents a lot of unique challenges because women in the church are trying to be godly, and they're trying to be abstinent. Most of the women in the church, most of them, not everybody, but most of them are trying to be abstinent. And so in that creates a certain amount of problems too, because there are a lot of young ladies who will marry a guy because, again, for one reason, may not be, the guy of their choice, but that's the first available guy. So there are a lot of challenges that faces the dynamics of families that we have to be aware of. And if there's nothing worse than a woman being married to a guy that she doesn't appreciate and doesn't respect and doesn't value, you can see it. A lot of times I'm in restaurants, and I watch couples that they get up, I don't know, married single, and I watch how they get up, who gets up first, and how far ahead the other person is them, and then I watch couples that are really close, they get up, they're talking to each other when they go, and there are a lot of things that you can see, a lot of subconscious things that are dynamics that go on in relationship to couples are not even aware of. And so I share that when I do, relationship seminars. But there are a lot of body language means a whole lot. There's someone, come on here, Leroy. I just say Leroy, come on, Leroy, let's go. You hearing your mama say, come on, Leroy. And I never forget, I was over someone's house, and the father said, you treat me like I'm the baby. And he was talking to the daughter. So you treat me like I'm the baby. He said, ain't that he was looking for some validation from his wife. His wife said, oh, shut up. So I'll say, Leroy, oh, shut up, Leroy. So now he getting from the daughter. Now you wonder why the daughter is not respecting, because the mama is not showing the type of respect. And so I will say women have to show respect for our men. And like you said, sometimes they've lost that respect, and a young lady has been raised up without a father. When she begins to date, now she doesn't have a healthy respect for men. So let me see.
Absolutely. And you were saying,
go ahead. I was gonna say, where are the real men? Laugh out loud. Okay, I'm gonna get this. Jamie says, speak a little about gaslighting and reminding young and old men that some men do it well. That's so true. I want you to finish what you're saying, Kelly, because I think that gaslighting is so important in relationships. So.
Yeah, what I was saying is just going back a little bit about what you're talking about, some of the women that were really desperately seeking a man. I wrote down thirsty. That's what we call them, thirsty. And in this society, women are literally dying to be seen by a man. They're having all these cosmetic procedures and getting and I'm all for looking your best, but some of them it is costing them their lives, and it's like, those are not looking good is important, but we want to work on what's inside, because I've been a nurse long enough to know that I've had patients in their 70s that had breast, we talk about what the history is. The history is, she's had, cosmetic surgery. And I'm thinking, where's that? Because I don't see it no more. I mean,
Hmm.
when all is said and done, what really matters is what's in your heart. So we have to make sure that we are raising girls that know the importance of what's on the inside, because beauty fades away after a while. And that is not going to keep a man for long, because you know what? Sometimes you turn 40 and he gets two 20s,
Right,
trait.
right,
So
right.
that's just super important to teach our daughters, not just what you want to look your best, but that is not what's going to keep a man, and that's not how you want to get a man either.
Yeah, and you have to be, again, you have to be confident with yourself.
Mhm.
And if you don't learn how to be comfortable with yourself and confident in yourself, then no man really can make you feel that confident. It has to come from the inside. And so sometimes as a Christian, you just have to ask God, help me to have that confidence in myself and believe in myself. Because I believe at the end of the day, the scripture said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mhm.
God can give you the ability to have and to believe in yourself. And
Mhm.
you got to sometimes, I tell my clients, this is one of the main things I tell my clients, it's okay to pat yourself on the back sometime. I
Right.
tell them that all the time. And so I had this one guy, one client, he was dealing with manic depression. He dealt with all time, you name it, depression. I'm on medication, shot. He did it all. And but uh, one of the things this is when I was in grad school, and we videotaped everything. And the professor was so impressed by. He said, "You know what?" He said, "I was going through something, and I remember what you said." And his whole face lit up when he said that. But we've got to learn how to believe in ourselves and not expect someone to validate us, because if you look, even in some healthy relationship, people are not going to always appreciate you like they should. And so you have to be willing to accept the fact that people are not going to appreciate you the way that you should, and you got to learn how to love yourself, and you got to learn how to value yourself. But to what James was saying about gaslighting, I've had clients who said, and boyfriends have said, you don't know how to treat men. Your mama didn't have any, and so they want everything they do. They place the blame on her, and so she's already feeling insecure. Now she gets a man that doesn't help her, but even more so tears her down. And like I was saying, has that spirit of discernment, knowing that she has unhealthy self image. And there are a lot of guys that will, man, they know that you have healthy self image. They'll manipulate whatever way they want to. They'll gaslight, and whatever happens, well, that's your fault. You made me do it because you didn't have no dad. Maybe you have a man in the house. Maybe you know how to treat a man. And so now you're feeling that much more insecure. I could go on that because I think I've dealt with that a lot of clients, and they buy it. And I tell people, you can't control someone, especially an abuse situation. Well, you made me do it. If you had a man out, you disrespect me. Sometimes some women are disrespectful, but you don't have to agree with the person. Sometimes some men want you to do something that's not right, and then you're disrespecting them. You as a young lady have to have the ability to set boundaries that you feel comfortable with. No one should press you beyond boundaries where you feel comfortable.
That's right. That's right. I call it doing a Jedi mind trick. I mean, it's almost like somebody, it's just, for example, cheats. Well, if, you were to have cooked more, if you didn't work so much, even though they're not working, you know,
Right.
just flip it around and make it seem like it's all your fault. But like you said, make sure that you're setting boundaries. I would speak the truth. No, this is how it is. I would give them, they call them, give them the receipts, give them the receipts. No, the fact is that, you don't come home, just give them the receipts, collect the evidence, give it to them, let them know what the truth is. And I would call them out on their behavior. I mean, do not back down and cower down to that type of behavior. Stand up, stand your ground. Because they can have you questioning, like, was it really that way? That it's like,
Right.
no, absolutely not. But and just remain confident in what your truth is, and what the truth is, and make sure that you have to be strong to deal with that. That's tough. That's not a relationship I would stay in too long, me personally. But if you're married and that's your husband, or your significant other, you have to know who you are and know the truth, and do not cower it down and play into that foolish behavior.
You know, and the thing that you have to do is you have to focus on being the best version of yourself that you can be. Once you've done the best you can be and you're striving to even better yourself, then if someone's trying to push you in an unhealthy direction, then like I said, that's time to cut it off, because you a person needs someone in their life that's going to celebrate. And this is my saying is, I say, go where you celebrate and not tolerate it. I refuse in any situation. I tell people that I'm going where I'm celebrated and not where I'm tolerated. You don't have to fool with that mess. If a man's just tolerating you, kick him to the curb. It's time to move on, because what they say: one man's trash is another man's treasure. Yeah, and don't hang on to somebody. And sometimes there's women will hang on to no good man. I'm gonna hang on to him until something come along. Maybe if you let him go, there's a good man out there waiting and watching you, but he can't talk to you because you hanging on to his no good fellow. So sometimes if they don't value you, they don't appreciate you, give them a good swift kick to the curb. All right.
That's
Ross said, as us women need to understand that some men are still learning, maturing, and isn't our place to put him down while he is learning. That's true. It's not your place to put him down while he's learning, but if he's learning and he's passing tests, you might need to get F for the course and say, hey, you don't have to go back to next grade before you can talk to me. Go back to the second grade, third grade, but this is graduate level, and I'm not gonna put up with the mess. There's some stuff you don't have to put up with.
right.
Uh, we as women and sisters in Christ need to bear the fruit that God bestowed upon us through our sins. We serve a pitiful, merciful God, so we have to remember that each man is different. So we have to encourage and love them as God has loved us. No excuses. We just have to obey what God is asking us to do in spite of what He does. We must pray and believe He is just important to God as uh, souls that can be used one day. Well, I hear what you're saying, but there has to be a limit, because what you're saying, no one should have to go through abuse.
Right.
He's a soul, because in order for a man to abuse you, he has to have a lack of respect.
Hmm.
He's not going to abuse that he respects. If he loves you, he's going to cherish you and he's going to hold you dear. He's not going to hurt you. He'll hurt himself before he hurts you.
Hmm.
In the Bible of Jacob worked 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel. He loved that woman. He's willing to work. I can talk about this lazy man.
Hmm.
Don't deal with no lazy man. If he's lazy, it's one thing if you can't find a job, but there's just some lazy men that are happy letting you go out and work, and they stay home watching TV.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to justify a lazy man, and there's some women that would justify it. I've seen women who they want a man so bad he's laying at home complaining why she's working, and when you come home, I want the car keys. Why don't you give him the car keys? But
Hmm.
you need to get yourself a job, get your own car keys. Someone say ain't no job for that. I say go to McDonald's. Something is better than nothing.
Hmm.
There's jobs out there. There is one thing in life, Bishop, you taught me, is to leave enough space in your heart to forgive as much as possible, and that advice has carried me far in my life. Thank you for. I'm glad you recognize. Remember something I taught you, but listen.
Hmm.
Uh, God forgives us, but the ways of sin is death. You reap what you sow. So because you forgive a person doesn't mean that you tolerate. And there's a difference between forgiving and tolerating people's mess. I
Hmm.
forgive a whole lot of people, but you know what? I handle them with a long handle spoon.
Right.
Because you forgive a person does not mean that you allow yourself to be in a situation where you allow that person to further harm you.
Right.
You know, you cannot you know I love a person, but I'm not gonna let somebody, if someone every time I talk to them, I end up crying. You
Hmm.
think I'm gonna keep on talking to them? And they because some people, I just like might as well keep it. Some people get off of that. They get off on seeing you upset, getting you you know getting you mad because they have issues with themselves and they're glad to see you upset. All right, God bless you, Pastor Bourne. He said, "Teach Bishop." Well, I'm trying to tell. I'm just trying to tell like it is. Sis, it's close to 10 o'clock, and people know it. After 10 o'clock, I usually tell it like it is. As a therapist, before 10 o'clock, I'll talk to someone. I say, "Well, do you think that was a good idea? You think that you think you could just?" At 10 o'clock, I said, "Now that wasn't right. You should do." So that's my point. At 10 o'clock, I'm getting close to 10 o'clock. So is at 9 o'clock now. So, but we're about run out of time. Jamie says, exactly, don't let man use God in their foolishness. You're so true. That's right. It is no excuse for that. Listen, we have had a tremendous, this hour went by pretty fast, didn't it?
It did. It
But
did.
we're going to have to get you back on here again. I know you have a busy schedule, but I think there's a lot more that can be said about this. Even when the program goes off, if you think about something, you have a question or comment, please feel free to write the comment on here because we can address it in a future program. Now, there's a possibility we may not be on next week. There's a possibility I want to know we may not be on next week, but we will be on the following week. So we'll let you know ahead of time if we're not going to be on next week. But I think this is discussion that I think we can further. What do you think about that, Ms. Jones? Do you think there's something that...
Absolutely. There's so much more that we can unpack. And I will say, you never have to go outside of your character if someone is, the young lady was saying you show them love, but you never have to change who you are. You can say in a very stern voice, listen, if you talk to me like that again, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
can say that and you can be out of here. I mean, don't bluff. If you say what you mean and mean what you say, but you can set boundaries and still show them the love of God. 100%.
You have to listen. I'm going to say this right here. As a man will respect you as much as you make him respect you.
Mm-hmm.
If you give them an inch, they'll take 2 miles. Usually say give them an inch, they take a mile. They'll take 2 miles because these guys are they bold these days. You give them an inch, they're gonna take 2, might take 3 miles, depending on what you're willing to let them do. So you just have to set the guidelines. You set the guidelines of what I'm willing to take, and once you set that, and don't set that line and don't go over it, don't tolerate it, and they'll accept it. Sometimes you just have to be true to yourself. I'm gonna just say an interesting story. Has nothing to do with the subject, but when I turned 40, I guess I must have went through a midlife crisis. I don't know what I did for you. I worked at AT&T in Evansville, Indiana. When I first started working there, they said, "Do we mind we call you Tony?" I said, "Well, my name is Anthony." They said, "Do you mind me calling Tony?" I said, "Well, my name is Anthony." So I guess they felt it was okay to just call me Tony. So they started calling me Tony. I looked at my name tag. My name tag had Tony. And so I just went along with it. I was like in my 30s. But when I turned 40, I said, one day I just woke up. I said, listen, my name is not Tony. My name is Anthony. I said, and I'm asking y'all, I went into the office, so you're going to have to change everything that's going to have my name on, my name tag, everything. They said, are you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. And so some people said, well, I'm just going to call you Tony anyway. I said, okay. They said, Tony, act like I didn't hear them. Guess
Right.
what? After a while, they got the hint.
Right.
They changed everything. They call me. You got to sometimes make people respect you, or they're not going to respect you. You got to make. They didn't like it. They had it was inconvenient for them. But why make it inconvenient for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow people to make things inconvenient for you. You got to take care of yourself. Okay, Pastor. Some women don't want to be alone. That's so true. Some people rather have another good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then and that's another subject that we can talk about too, because we have to talk about what is it that they feel that's being fulfilled by just having a man in the house, because you may have him there, but are you satisfied? I've talked to a lot of clients that have a man there and they're crying, they're hurt, and they're suffering with the man in the house. So Why allow yourself to be hurt and suffer in one way? You have someone in the house, but you don't have someone that adds value to you. So, Mr.
Right.
Rosin, it was pronounced properly, finally, as Rosalind Rosin as of last year. Okay, Rose, I don't, I get her. Okay, so she's telling me I need to change her name. Okay, I got you, sis. I just call you sis. Okay, listen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us on this week's episode of It's My Turn Now. I'm going to let you give us some final remarks, Ms. Jones, before we dismiss.
Yes, for all the young girls, young women out there, know your worth, whether your father is in the home or not. If you have a wonderful father, that's awesome. If you have a father that's there that is not, the man that he needs to be, or whether you don't have a father, don't even know where he's at, God loves you. Get some affirmations, get in God's word, know who you are, know what your worth is, know what your value is, and know what you bring to this world. Just focus on the things that are good about you, the things that you cannot change, you cannot change. I would not focus on the things that I can't change, like not having a father, but know your worth, know your value, and expect people to treat you with respect and that's it. I mean, you are awesome. You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are kind. You are loving. You are loved. Know that. And the more you know your worth and value, the more people will see that and will treat you. They will rise to the occasion.
Right. And the right person will recognize that.
That's right.
Like you can be cross-eyed,
That's right.
buck tooth, but the right person will say, "Boy, I just love them cross-eyed. I just love them teeth." It's just something about it. I mean, a person who respects you and love you, there's so many things that they will love you just as you're. Speaking of knowing your value, I'm going to mention this book again. It should be out next week. The Worth of a Woman. Do you know your value?
That's
This,
right.
this is my latest book number 10. It
That's
should be hopefully out by next week. So I have a few copies here that I made, but this is the unedited version. But this is a volume 1 because I'm doing volume 2, 3, 4, and 5 with this right here.
wow.
But I think this is so important. And I was out of town, and God woke me up and told me to write a book dealing with this issue some time
Wow.
ago at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And because I deal with so many clients that there are challenged now, that's not why I'm talking about this subject, but I think it's just ironic that we talk about the subject on today because there are so many women that really need to know. Robin Poole says something interesting. We're going to try to go. Robin says, as the saying goes, I can do bad all by myself. And that's true. There are a lot of women who why add a man to your life that takes value from you? And
Mm.
this and I've seen situations where a young lady has gotten hooked up with the wrong guy and she ends up on drugs,
Mm.
loses the things that she has.
Mm.
And so I can tell you a lot of stories. So Shirley says, I hear you, sis. Ross says, amen. And on that note, listen, God bless you. We'll see you next week or the week after next. Continue to recognize yourself, be the best version of you that you can be. God bless you. Until we see again, don't forget to share it. We love you and God bless you.
Thank you.